In this video, we'll take a look at the industry-leading quality management platform, Zephyr. You'll see how Zephyr has real-time integration with Atlassian's Jira, how you can manage your testing assets at scale, how you can plan and schedule test execution across multiple projects and multiple teams, and also our one-click integration with a multitude of test automation frameworks. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. When you first log into Zephyr, you'll see that you're taken to a recently used project. In this case, I'm in Project Mercury. Projects are the highest organizational unit within Zephyr. You can have custom fields, custom permissions, and other customizations at the project level. Within Project Mercury, you have releases. In this case, there are 5 releases that are either active or being planned for. On the project page, you can see high-level statistics of this particular project in terms of releases, test cases, executions, and so forth. We'll go ahead and look at Release 28. So within Project Mercury and within Release 28, you can also see some high-level statistics about this particular release. You can also see the schedule of testing activities for this particular release. So in this case, Sprint 2 is a cycle, and all of the gray bars such as Android, calendar tests, content tests, and email tests are all groupings of tests that will be executed or have been executed as part of this release. From this one page, your team can be up to date on the testing activities that are planned for this release and the overall progress. Let's click on Requirements. Requirements make up the what are we going to test. In this case, we have requirements for API, calendar, email, and search. And these requirements are being pulled in real time from Atlassian's Jira. Using the Jira sync config, we can actually point our Jira synchronization at a JQL filter, and Zephyr will automatically keep all of the stories up to date. It'll add new stories, and it'll even keep up to date in real time all of the changes to these stories that happen so that Jira and Zephyr are always in sync. If I were to click on one of these stories, you can see all of the Jira information right from within inside of Zephyr. Note you cannot edit this story from inside of Zephyr when you do have synchronization with Jira, as we look at Jira as a source of truth for your requirements. Again, requirements are the what are we going to test. You can see that these requirements are mapped to test cases for test case coverage. This allows you to easily see the traceability of requirements to test cases and executions. Throughout Zephyr, you'll also find a powerful search engine. Here, I can search for all of my requirements based upon the word calendar, or I could build out a complex query using ZQL. ZQL is a language built around all the data points that are in Zephyr throughout all of the various applications. So going back to our requirements view, we also see that the requirements can have a folder hierarchy. And if you aren't quite using Jira, or you do have a use case for it, you can manage requirements outside of Jira by simply adding additional folders. Here, I've created a folder that can now contain new requirements that I simply add by clicking the Add button, and those will specifically be managed just inside of Zephyr. So now that we've seen the what are we going to test, let's take a look at how we're going to test it through the test repository. Here in the test repository, you can see we have the same rich folder structure. This folder structure is completely customizable per the test repository and completely separate from the requirements repository. Within this folder structure, you can see that we have a host of test cases, and you can even customize the fields that you're seeing on this table view. If I click into a test case, we'll see all of the information that makes up a test case. whether that's the title, the ID, who created it, the ability to have tags for sorting. Tags are very powerful because you can use those in addition to folders for organization. You can use them for things like if this was part of a smoke test suite, I would then just say smoke, and now this is tagged as part of that suite. Zephyr also supports versioning of your test cases so that you can track all of the changes, including who made the changes to those particular test cases. And of course, all of your step information with drag and drop capabilities for ordering. Going back to the test case library, Zephyr again has its rich search capabilities so that you can quickly and easily find all of your test case information. And anywhere that you're throughout Zephyr, you can use the export option to export your data out to Excel, PDF, or Word for additional reporting capabilities. In this case, I can export all of my test cases with all of the information and create a filtered report very easily. That same exporting capability applies almost anywhere you see tabular data or a tree structure within Zephyr. As I'm going through my test cases, I may want to navigate different test cases quickly and easily, so I can simply click on them and then use the up and down button. This allows you to very easily go through a host of test cases quickly. Next, we have test planning. Test planning is where you organize your testing activities. In this case, we're choosing to use sprints. Here, I have sprint 2. Now, this is simply a cycle, a way of saying when testing activities are going to happen. I could name this anything that I wanted to. If it's not a sprint, maybe your team's still doing waterfall, it could be a phase. If your team has some sort of custom schedule, that's fine. You can give it a name and a start and the end date. It's completely flexible for teams working in any sort of project methodology. Once I have my cycle, I can then customize the phases that represent all of the test cases that'll be executed. In this particular case, we have Android test cases that are going to be executed, and you can see that they've already started execution. So again, the idea being that we want teams to be able to see everything that's happening as quickly as possible and give you visual planning to allow you to quickly and easily plan your upcoming testing activities. Once you go through test planning, it's time to take a look at test execution. Test execution allows you to easily come in and execute those tests that are assigned to you through my executions or assigned to the anyone user. What this allows your teams to do is self-organize your testing activities and allow you to quickly and easily sort and filter which tests you need to execute. So for instance, if I wanted to go ahead and look at calendar tests and choose to execute this particular test, we can see that the first 5 steps have been executed, with the 5th step failing. We've recorded notes as to why that failure happened and even posted an attachment as to what happened during that execution. Here we can see that this failed test case has been linked to a Jira ticket. That happens through our real-time integration with Jira by clicking on the defect button and then choosing to create defect. We can then, from Zephyr, create a bug that'll be generated in real time and reflected inside of Jira. Once I click create, Mercury 75 was generated. I can go to Jira and look at Mercury 75 and see that that bug has been created. It's been linked back to the test case execution within Zephyr, along with all of the rich step information that happens so your developers can work on this defect without having to refer back to Zephyr for the execution information. We also link it back to any of the stories that may be blocked by this defect through the traceability that was established in Zephyr, and a link and a status of the current test case activity. So in this case, for this particular execution of test case 2603, we can see that it's still failing. Going back to Zephyr, we also have the ability to query Jira in real time through our defect tracker. So if I wanted to see the 7 defects related to this particular release, I click 7, and now I'm bringing back all of that Jira information in real time. I can see the defect, the status, and the relationship to any testing activities inside of Zephyr. You can also use your own save filters or custom JQL filters, or use the simple drop-down to query any project inside of Jira. This is important because it allows your quality management folks who are working inside of Zephyr to stay inside that tool and quickly get to the information they need from Atlassian's Jira. Next, we have our reporting. This allows you to easily drill down into the current status of this release, including every cycle and every phase. So for real-time reporting, I can see that during Sprint 2, we had 85 scheduled, and so far 82 have been executed. If I want to see a further breakdown, I could then click through and see all of the phases. And if I wanted to see, say, the 3 tests that were failed during Android, I click on the 3, and now I'm brought directly to that information in terms of the test cases that are failing for Android. Going back to real-time reports, Zephyr offers multiple real-time reports, including trending charts by status. Here we can see over time the cumulative trending data for our testing activities, and also trend chart by user. Also, Zephyr brings a wealth of dashboarding capabilities so that your teams can always be up to date on the latest testing activities. Here we can see some of the gadgets available, including our project status, overall defects, your execution backlog sorted by tag, your execution backlog sorted by user, along with an overview of your cycles and phases. In addition, you can plot dashboards across multiple projects. So here we can see gadgets from both Mercury and Apollo projects. Now we'll take a look at how Zephyr integrates directly with a multitude of automation frameworks through our plugin Vortex. When you open up Vortex, you'll have the ability to create new automation jobs. In this case, I'm going to integrate with Cucumber for BDD integration. I'll choose to execute a script and the path to where I can find the results of this test execution. Once configured, I have the ability to go ahead and execute this job. And through Vortex, I've just given it a command to execute that test suite on an external test system. Once executed, those test cases will automatically be created in Zephyr, and a record of the execution, here you can see we've run this job 3 times, will also be created in Zephyr, along with the test execution results. So in this case, I can see all of the execution results from that build, including the ability to click into that build and see if there were any failures, see the log files that were generated, along with all of the steps. Since this was a Cucumber BDD test, I can see all of the steps that were also executed. This is great because now you can execute automation from directly inside of Zephyr, and you can collate all of these results along with your other testing activities. And that is Zephyr, the industry-leading quality management platform with real-time integration with Atlassian's Jira, scalability up to 50,000 users, and direct integration with a multitude of automation frameworks. Get started today with Zephyr by going to our website, getzephyr.com, and get an instant free trial.